So if you may, expand on the story of how you got involved with Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
Went and did it. Didn't think anything else about it. She said, well, Konami tried other singers and they want you.
Oh my God. Wow.
I walk in and it's a full orchestra. At that point, I stopped and I thought, this is some big shit. People in Tokyo knew who I was even before the game was released. You would have thought I was the Beatles or something.
So I kind of want to talk about the evolution of the relationship to that song for you.
From actually recording it to singing it live, it was totally different only because just for my name to have been said, the whole entire place just stood up and they were just screaming.
I wanted to ask you about the famous ladder scene.
Whoa.
I'm a huge fan of the Metal Gear Solid series, and today I had the honor to speak to the wonderful Cynthia Harrell, who sang the iconic theme song for Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. We talk about how she was introduced to the project and how her performance has not only resonated with us, the gamers, but also with her because of the vast impact that it had on her life. We also mentioned the importance of music in the gaming industry, some funny interactions that Cynthia has had with her fans on Twitch, and her general thoughts about the industry as she's a gamer herself, and much more. This was a lovely conversation and definitely a highlight for me. And with that said, let's uncover Cynthia's story. Cynthia, it is such a pleasure to have you on the show, or should I say, what a thrill to have you on the show. I had to say that. And it seems like...
Oh, the pleasure's all mine.
Thank you. It seems like for some time, you went under the radar to the point where, some people online actually were speculating that you might be dead.
They thought I was dead.
Yeah, which couldn't be farther from the truth. And we're, so very happy to know that you're, well, so to speak, resurfaced. And I believe we have a person called Ash Parrish to actually thank for this because, right? The editor of Kotaku.
Ashley, yeah.
And I've read the article, I've read the story. What a wonderful story that is. I wanted to start the conversation with that, if we could. Could you talk about that story of, in a way, you're resurfacing back to the mainstream media and how the whole story with Ash Parrish has turned out to be?
Well, it's so funny because I think it was either at the time when it was still called Twitter. She saw me do some couple of posts, on there, and I always spell, excuse me, on Twitter, and I think it's on my Discord and on Twitch.
Twitch, right?
I spell my name different. Yeah.
Okay.
So my family, short for Cynthia, they call me Cent. So I spelled the name Cent, Harrell. So she saw it and she just thought, wonder if this is her. So she hit me up one day and she asked me if it was me. And I said, yeah, it's me. And she told me who she was and that, she wanted to write a story if it would be okay. I think this was during COVID. So, of course, I had nothing else to do except for be in the house.
Yeah.
And I told her, sure. So we set it up for a couple of days after that. And it's history. It's like once that went out, my phone was just ringing, So, yes, I do have to thank her for that.
Definitely.
She and I talk every once in a while. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say not only you, but I think everybody else as well, because I'm really happy to know that you're still out there and kicking it. But my question would be, why did it happen that you kind of went under the radar for a little bit there?
Well, I actually had retired early from the music business. I was fortunate enough to be able to retire. Plus, I was still raising my son. My son had gotten to the point where he didn't want to be looked after by nannies and things like that. So I became actually a school mom, room mom in his school, which he hated, by the way.
Oh, God.
Whenever it was my turn to actually show up and be in the classroom with the teachers all day, he would get very quiet. So I had to literally change and volunteer for another classroom because he didn't want his mother, in the classroom with him.
Oh my.
So that gave me a chance to spend time with him also during his formative years, from junior high through high school, and a little bit, when he went to college for a couple of years, which was perfect for me because the industry that I was in before, I was never home, ever.
I see.
I was constantly, sometimes I was in the studio 8 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I would have to go in at midnight,
Oh
to
God.
record
Okay.
something. And so it gave me a chance for us to spend time, together. So that was, perfect. And then when it was time to retire, I just, retired. And I never paid, I play video games, but
Yeah,
I
I
never
know.
paid any attention to anything that anyone was looking for me or anything like that. I would just play. So,
Okay, well, that's good to know. Well, that's a great reason, of course, to, let's say disappear in a way, because I have
hmm
a son, he's 3 years old, and I know how important it is to be there for them. And, it's a
right.
very, very noble reason and a noble cause. So let's get to the main topic at hand, which is your involvement with Metal Gear Solid 3
Good
with
old
Konami.
Snake.
Yeah, good old
Yeah.
Snake, exactly. So I'd really like to know the story of how you got involved with the project. I know that you were working together with Rika Morinaka, who played an
hmm
important role in that, and
hmm
she, from what I understand, pushed you towards it. So if you may, expand on the story of how you got involved with Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
Rika and I were introduced in Chicago. This is when I lived in Chicago. And she lived there at the time. I think her dad was a professor at Northwest University. So she and her brother, kind of grew up in the Evanston area, in the Chicagoland. It's a suburb right outside of Chicago. And an engineer that I had worked with for years, I think he had worked with her, a couple of times. And for a couple of projects that she was doing at the time, she asked him if there was anybody that he would recommend for a song that I think she had written. And he said, "Oh yes." So she got my number, called me. We met, did the song. We actually saw how well we worked together
Right.
and how um, our camaraderie was, together. And this was the first time I think I had ever worked with or for a female musician or writer or
Wow.
producer.
Wow.
So that was special in itself. So that's how we actually became involved, in that area. Um, I think it was probably maybe 3-4 years later, after I want to say she did her project first before we actually did Snake Eater. If I remember correctly, it was called Slice of Life, and I worked with her on that.
Okay. Wow.
And then one day she called and she said, "Listen, I've got this demo that I've got to do for a video game." First of all, the first one I did for her was Castlevania.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't even think I've ever played Castlevania. I'm going to have to go to GameStop when we get through and go and buy that one so I can play
Definitely.
that one too. So we did Castlevania. And then she said she had another one. And I'm like, okay, cool, fine. And of course, we did it in demo form. It was just me singing, her playing the piano. And I think I went back to do it the next day and added like the backgrounds and things like that to it. At that point, she had kind of added and tweaked some other things, on the piano and added some other instruments and all of that.
Right.
So she said, "Well, I'll let you know how it goes." And I think it was a week later, she called and she said, well, Konami tried other singers and they want you,
Oh my God.
to actually sing the song. And
Wow.
at that point, I'm thinking to myself, oh, okay, went and did it. It was fine. Didn't think anything else about it. And I want to say maybe a month later was when we finally did the final version of it.
Right.
So she did call me and she said, we're going to do it at so-and-so and so studio. Can you come at this time? And, we're going to do the final version. And I said, okay, fine. I walk into this studio, which I had worked in probably for a very, very long time, maybe about 10 years, because at this point we were in Los Angeles. I was living in Los Angeles then and had been there before. Walked into the room. I'm just expecting, I'm just going to walk in, go in the vocal booth, sing the final version. I walk in and it's a full orchestra.
Oh my God.
That's actually playing. They were finishing up their part of the gig.
Wow.
At that point, I stopped and I thought, this is some big shit here. Excuse my language. But when I saw the orchestra, and it was the full Philharmonic Orchestra of Los Angeles.
My God.
And
wow.
I said to myself, this is something.
Right. Right.
So they got through. I recorded Snake Eater. I think I had probably in about 2 or 3 takes.
Okay.
And that was it. Left, went home, never thought any more about it. I went to GameStop with my son. At that time, he wasn't driving. So I took him. He's also an avid video game player. And took him to GameStop. Soon as we walked in, it was a life-size cutout of Snake.
Yeah.
So he says, Mom, look. So I looked over and he did know because I did have a copy of Snake Eater that I would listen to, in the car and all that. So he's so excited. He tells the guys behind the counter, my mom sang on that. My mom sang Snake Eater. So, of course, they went crazy. And it wasn't too long ago. It was actually being released in the United States that particular day. Excuse me. And but it hadn't been released yet in Europe. It hadn't been released yet in Japan.
Right.
But the guys that were at GameStop did tell me. I don't know if you guys have Do you have GameStop over there?
No, but we have other ones. But I know exactly what GameStop is.
Yeah. Okay. So they did tell me that this is how I found out it hadn't been released in Japan or Europe yet. And they told me this. They said, well, we think the release date is next month. And I said, oh, that should be cool. That's fine. I still didn't buy it that day because it wasn't the kind of games that I was used to playing. I was used to playing Mario Kart, the kind of games at that time that to me looked like cartoons.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even I still haven't done like Grand Theft Auto because it just looks too hard to me. So the next thing I knew, I get an email and a call asking me to come to Japan for their release date and to sing the song for the release party. And it was a huge release party.
I can imagine, yeah.
It was huge. It asked me if I would come and sing it there. And I said, oh, yeah, sure, of course. I had just had knee surgery, probably like 2 weeks before that.
Oh, God.
And I'm thinking, okay, this is a 14-hour flight. How am I going to be able to get through this 14-hour flight with this knee the way it was? Of course, when I got there, it's like this big,
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah. So I get there and it wasn't as large of an orchestra, but it was a tiny little pocket of an orchestra that I sang it with there.
Mm-hmm.
So then I knew, yes, this is big shit. At the particular time, I didn't even know that people in Tokyo even knew who I was even before the game was released.
Oh my God.
They knew, I guess, the song also before it was released. You would have thought that I was the Beatles or something over there. I ended up doing it, Tokyo MTV, a couple of news stations, I had interviews with, and then it started really hitting me again. Oh my God, this is the shit. And excuse my language, but this
Perfectly
is exactly
fine.
what I kept saying to myself. And so I played the game a little bit, or at least tried to play it because they had it set up, so the people at the party could play it. I tried to play it and I said, I'll never be able to play this. Got back home, and next thing I knew, my doorbell was ringing, and it was a delivery service that was bringing me this huge package from Tokyo. So I opened it, the games in there.
Oh, that's so nice.
A lot of memorabilia was in there that was associated with Metal Gear Solid 3. So I did tell them, I said, well, let's see, my son had an Xbox. He had Atari at the time. He had Nintendo. He had something else. He was like the king of the neighborhood because he had all of the platforms.
Right, maybe a PlayStation.
On. Didn't have a PlayStation.
Oh, no, okay.
So the next thing I knew, Sony was sending me a PlayStation.
Oh, perfect.
And it's like, oh, good. This is going to be fun. So I plugged it up. Well, he plugged it up for me because I didn't know how to, plug it up. He plugged it up for me. Started playing the game. Let me go back a little bit. While I was in Tokyo, I did get a tour of Konami. So I got to see what they were still working on for the European version in their offices. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is probably going to be like, one or two guys that are in a room, who have put this game together. No, it was like a big factory and with probably 100 people working on different parts of the game.
Right.
The one that I saw was when Snake finally meets up with the big boss, his mom.
The boss, yeah.
And and when he's looking at the horse and she comes up behind him and breaks his gun.
Yep.
Go home.
So that was what I saw. And then I saw a couple of other things, and it wasn't until I actually put that game into the console and started playing it, and I said, no, I can't do this. I don't know how. I wasn't used to the controller. I wasn't used to anything with this game. So it started, had to climb up the tree, to get the backpack. I couldn't climb up the tree yet because I didn't know which buttons to push. I didn't know how to go over the branch to get the backpack. I kept falling off of that at least about 50 times. And I just put it away. God. I said, I can't play this kind of game. And at that time, I don't think we had anything online to where you could actually go and sneak and, YouTube and kind of sneak and get, walkthroughs. And we had the actual magazines. And I forget which one that my son had bought for me, the name of it, but it was the magazines that kind of helped you, with the controllers, tell you what to do and all of that. So that's when I knew I had to get in stealth mode also by reading the walkthroughs. So I finally got the backpack, finally started creeping around through the game, and I kept getting, when I got to the first couple of soldiers, of course, they were killing me because I
Yeah,
didn't
right.
know how to use my knife. I didn't know how to, I don't even think I had my gun then. So I didn't know how to do anything. So
Yeah.
I was probably dead, like, snake, at the end of each time you get killed
Yeah.
and snake, snake, snake. I kept
Exactly.
getting that at least 100 times because I didn't know what to do. So one day, after dinner, I said, I'm going to conquer this thing. I'm going to learn how to play this game. And I took my time. I learned how to do the stealth moves. I learned how to do CQC,
Exactly. Yeah.
and fell in love with it. I fell in love with it. After I learned how to do it, I fell in love. So I'm thinking to myself, I still haven't heard the song. They must have decided not to put it in there. Finally got through that first 15 minutes. And when it came up, I said, oh my God.
Right. Right.
Then again, this is the shit.
Yeah.
And because the song, it literally fit
Yeah.
the game to a T. And a lot of
Absolutely.
people reference it to being like a James Bond kind of theme or something like that, but it fits Snake and it fits the
Yeah.
game, which is what I really loved about it being in the spot where it actually was.
Mhm.
And then I said to myself, oh, I want to hear it again. I want to hear it again. But I didn't know that I actually had to save first and go back to it. So it took me a long time before I learned even all of that to know how to even get back to it. So
Right.
I know that's a long story, but
No,
yeah.
it's perfectly fine.
And it's 21 years later and I'm still playing it.
Absolutely. Well, and not you alone. It is truly, truly an iconic game. Just when you were explaining the story about how you got the game and all that, it also sparked some memories that I have with this video game. And I've been waiting for this video game for MGS3 to come out eagerly for, I don't know, maybe a year or two. And as you said, there was not a lot of websites where you could find all this information.
Yes.
And so I was also getting all these magazines. And to this day, I have a box in my house with every single magazine that I bought that contained
still
any sort of a
have them?
picture of Metal Gear Solid, be it 1, 2, or 3, every single one. And I got all the copies of the games for the Game Boy and everything. I'm a big fan of the game. And so when it came out, I felt this melancholic feeling. I thought to myself, well, this can't be real. I was waiting so long and now I have it in my hands. And I was a kid, right? I was so excited to play it. And so I got to my room. I put plugged everything in, turned the game
Now,
on.
how old were you?
I'll tell you, I was about maybe 10 or 12 years old. So something like that. And so like I told my parents, listen, I'm turning on this game. Don't bother me. And as soon as, you could actually play in the game, I hear my mom screaming, gotcha, go buy something downstairs from the store. And I'm like, no, Mom, wait, please, no. And she forced me. She made me go down. So I had to wait another 10 minutes. I had to go down, get some water or whatever it was, come back and play the game. And it's a game that stuck with me through the years. To be honest with you, I have the song on my iTunes saved always.
A lot of people have it. Yeah.
Always. My son is 3 years old. I sing it to him or with him every once in a while. And it's, a song that I randomly just put on when I'm, feeling in a certain mood. I just put on that song and I listen to it, whether I'm driving or training or whatever. It's an iconic song. And I would go as far as to say not only for the gaming industry, it's a work of art by a large degree. So thank you very much for that wonderful performance. I wanted to ask you though, I know that Norihiko Hibino is the main composer of the tune of the music, and obviously it's the tune and your voice that make the whole song as good, the masterpiece that it is. So I wanted to ask you, how was it like to work with them, with Norihiko Hibino? Did you have a chance to interact with him?
Now he and I, we probably were in the same room when I recorded it. but at that particular point, I didn't know that it was him.
Okay.
Um, so we met then probably, but then we didn't really meet really good until I went to Tokyo. He
Okay.
actually was the one who picked me up from the airport
Oh, wow.
and took me to my hotel.
That's
So,
wonderful.
so we got a chance to spend a little time, together then. But actually, as far as working on it, we probably met that day, but I don't know that I didn't know that
Understood.
it was him that
Understood.
had actually, composed the song. Yeah.
Understood. Understood. Wow. Well, again, what a wonderful story, Cynthia. Thank you so much for opening up and letting me know. Well, not me, but also anybody who's listening about this.
Mhm.
It's such a historic game in the gaming industry that, these little stories of how these games were made, they're just so, to me at least, they're a treasure because,
Mhm.
Metal Gear Solid 3 will never come out again. I mean, of course, the remaster is coming out, but I
Right.
mean, the original. So to know these little stories is just so fascinating for me. And thank you very much for sharing those. I wanted to ask you about the famous ladder scene. I know you played through the game, right? The absolute
Oh,
famous, absolutely
that
amazing.
that I did not know was going to be there until he actually went through that tunnel
Right,
and got on the
right.
ladder. And then all of a sudden, I hear my voice.
I give my life, not for honor, but for you. In my time, there'll be no one else. Crime is the way I fly to you. I'm still in a dream, snake eater.
Yeah.
And to me, that's sexier than the theme song.
Mm,
I love
yeah.
that ladder. Someone actually sent me something the other day, a video of I've gotten cats going up the ladder, I've gotten dolls going up the ladder, and this was like a
Yeah.
little wind up toy that someone sent me where the cat is actually going up on a ladder on the side of a building, and I thought it was just hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, that ladder scene is something.
Yeah, it
I love
definitely is
it.
something. That's a
Hmm.
real Hideo Kojima touch. Something that
Hmm.
I don't think anybody really expected it, and it was just perfect. Really wonderful. Kind of gave you a pause in the middle of the chaos
Yeah,
of the game, and it's
yeah,
something that really
yeah.
sticks with you, throughout the years. So
Because that's when we get through with the end.
exactly, yeah,
That's when, yeah. And so for a lot of us, even still me to this day, that's one of the hardest
yeah.
bosses to actually get through that particular one. So I get exhausted, by the time I get through with him.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and
was
so
I
that
the
gives you
first time.
kind of, yeah. So it gives you a chance to actually, when the ladder scene does come up, it gives you a chance to actually
Mhm.
rest for a few minutes. So
Yeah,
you kind of have that feeling, when the
exactly.
ladder comes up. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
So, seeing as this is truly an iconic moment in video game history, and as you said, there are many memes that are being created with this scene in mind, and knowing that, your voice has, had such a, really big influence to the game and to this scene. What are your thoughts on that? That, your voice and your song is part of such an important part or such a big thing in video game history.
For me, sometimes I get people who will recognize me on the street and they go crazy. Are you Cynthia Harrell? I knew that was you. I saw you in your car. And for me, it's just me. It's just little old me. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm still Bobby's mom. I'm still Seth's aunt. I'm still, you know, my brother's sisters, and, you know, and it's not until those moments happen that I really see the significance and the bigness of, and it's not just me,
Mhm.
of course, the rest of the cast,
Yeah.
and the game, you see the bigness of all of that, you
Yeah.
know, and there are other games that have done the same thing
Sure.
over the years, but it's just something about that one, I think, that's so iconic to gamers that, and a whole lot of it is Hideo,
Yeah.
you know, and even the other games that he's done, um, it's the genius that's in his head that actually makes that game a genius game,
Right.
if that
Right.
makes any sense
Oh,
to you.
perfect sense for me, 100%. You know, for me, for example, I'll take me as an example. You know, getting to talk to you, as I've said before, is quite a highlight, probably the biggest highlight of this podcast and generally of my gaming experience, I would say, because, you know, again, your voice has made such a big impact. And for you, it's just, you know, another day at the job, right? But it's so nice to hear that you're taking this all in, you know, so openly, and you understand the, let's say, the grandness of the game and of the gamers and of your performance. So that's very interesting to know that. Thank you very much. My
Well, for me, can I say this too?
Of course.
Whenever I see on Twitch that anybody's playing it, I always go into their chat rooms.
Yeah.
And I still learn to this day different things that I may have missed in the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And which is one of the reasons why I like to go to Twitch, because I'll see somebody else, you know, play it a different way. The one thing that I cannot do, I can't do those speed runs,
Right.
and I can't do,
Yeah, me too.
I can't do a no kill. I've got to kill everybody. So, but when I go in and people see that it's me, and, you know, they'll ask, is it really her? And then somebody else will go and they'll do some investigating. They'll come back. It's really her. It's really her. But for me, it's just me. I'm just like you all. I'm just a gamer,
Right.
you know, and I love it. It relaxes me. I'm just a gamer. That's
Right.
it.
You're
know?
one of us.
Yes. Yes.
I know that you once got kicked out from a Twitch stream because they didn't believe that you
Oh
were
my
you, right?
God.
That's
Oh
funny.
my God. Listen, last year, I think this is when I got back from Tokyo. Last year I did the MGS concert in Tokyo. And that was with the Tokyo Philharmonic Orchestra. And when I got back, I started getting all these invitations, which I found out that I was getting these invitations anyway over the years, but I really didn't know because my mindset wasn't into doing the cons and things
Right.
like that.
Right.
So I started getting all these invitations to the cons, and someone told me, you should go and sign up for Twitch. And I was like, what is Twitch? I didn't know what it was. So I went to my app and I looked it up and I got it and I kind of signed into it. And so every day, whenever I would see anyone on Twitch playing MGS3,
Yeah.
I would go, you know, into their chat rooms.
Yeah.
Someone saw my name. Someone asked, is this Cynthia Harrell, the real Cynthia Harrell who sang Snake Eater? And I will tell them, yes, this is me. Hi, how are you? You know, well, the person who was actually playing that particular day, I won't say her name, but she knows who she is. And it was good for me too, because that was the first time that I ever saw a girl play. Normally I would just see guys play,
Right.
you know. So I said, oh, a girl, another girl. So I went in And she said, that couldn't be her. That's not her. No, that's not her. So the next thing I knew, I'm trying to write a comment. Yes, it is me. You can check me on Facebook. You can check me on Instagram.
Right.
You can check me on X. It's really me. So she still didn't believe it. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to type all this stuff in. Next thing I knew, I couldn't type anything.
Right.
So I had gotten kicked out of the chat room.
That's crazy.
Last year, I did MGS Con. This was their second year in Long Beach, California. And the whole cast was actually there. The cast from 1, 2, and 3 were there. This year, it's gonna be the whole cast too. But this year, it's featuring MGS 3.
Okay.
Well,
it makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there was a young lady who was a part of the staff who would constantly ask me, Miss Cynthia, you doing okay? Can I get you anything? And it's like, no, I think I'm fine. Had gotten to a point because I'm signing autographs and things and taking pictures and the whole entire day. So she comes to my table and she says, I have a secret. Because she asked me if I wanted any coffee. And I said, yes, please, just a cup of coffee would be fine.
Yeah.
So she whispers in my ear, I'm sorry. That was me.
Oh, no way.
I was the one who kicked you out. And I said, are you kidding me? So other people who
wonderful.
actually worked for the convention, they knew it, but they told her, don't tell her that it was you. Don't tell.
Right.
So it's just been a big joke with all of us, you know. So anytime I go into her room, I just say, hi. And she's like, hi, Cynthia, you know. So she tells people now that we're the best of friends, which we are. Yeah.
At least she apologized. That's very nice of her.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm sure she did it not, not because she's a bad person. She probably was.
No,
that's the
she
first
just
time
said
she had to kick somebody out.
Right. She just explained, she said a lot of people, which I guess it makes sense. They come in and they impersonate other people.
Yeah.
And especially since the spelling of my name is different, people think that it's not me.
Right.
So that's why they ask, is it really you? Is it really you?
Yeah.
I've had some gamers who have actually put the game on pause and actually went and started to look to see if it was me. And then they saw that it was me.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's her. She's really here. So, yeah.
Awesome. That's really cool. My next question would be also, regarding, Snake Eater and Metal Gear Solid 3. And I would like to know, how has your connection to the song changed over time? Because I imagine that singing Snake Eater for the first time felt very different than performing it, for example, years later, as you have more than once. So I kind of want to talk about the evolution of, the relationship to that song for you. At the beginning, it was more kind of like a job, whereas now it's, such a big thing. So how has the thought process evolved over the years?
Actually, from actually recording it to singing it live the first time in Tokyo, 21 years ago.
Wow.
To actually singing it live 20 years last year in Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
It was totally different only because at this point, even while being introduced to the audience, and people have told me, Japanese audiences are very stoic. No matter what they're going to see, they're very quiet. They don't say anything. A lot of the times they won't even clap,
Okay. Wow.
And just for my name to have been said, it's like the whole entire place just stood up and they were just screaming.
God. Wow.
And
That's incredible.
That
incredible.
in itself was, I felt it in my heart. And then to get through, it was a very long standing ovation. I went to check on some merchandise after the show, thinking that everyone was gone. Someone turned around and said, "That's her." All of these people, all of a sudden, and we should have been out of that building probably an hour and a half, even, once the show started. I had to take so many selfies, so many autographs.
Yeah.
And then that's when it hit me. People know who I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I really didn't think people knew who I was. But they knew from some pictures that they've seen, over the internet, that it was me. But it's a totally different experience to sing it live
Yeah.
in front of people, and then they're singing it also with you. Now that's the fun part.
Yeah.
That's the real fun part is when they actually are singing it, along with me.
Right. Right. Yeah. I
So
can
that's the
imagine.
difference in the
Mhm.
actual recorded one and actually doing it live.
Yeah, definitely. Well, there's more soul, more life in,
Mhm.
in seeing the live performance. That's for sure. Talking about, music in general, obviously Metal Gear Solid 3 is a fantastic game for the gameplay, for the story. But of course, the music really kind of adds that layer of, kind of like the cherry on top of the cake, right? It wouldn't be Metal Gear Solid 3 without the music. And I'm not talking only about
Mhm.
Snake Eater here. I'm talking about the whole, soundtrack for the game.
The whole soundtrack is fabulous.
Yeah,
Actually, and I hate to take you off thought,
no problem.
but actually the concert last year was featuring the songs from 1, 2, and 3,
Mhm.
which, for those of us who play them, we know the soundtrack. And to actually hear it live,
Yeah.
that's another thing too. We all hum along with it, as we're playing the games, but to hear it live, just fantastic.
Yeah.
I
I
hated
can
to
imagine.
interrupt
Yeah,
you, but I had to get that in. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. No problem whatsoever. And yeah, unfortunately, I didn't have the chance to see any of those. But hopefully in the near future, I'll have an opportunity to see, one of those live performances. I understand. I can only understand how absolutely amazing they can be. So yeah, to continue what I was saying, how do you see the role of music in games compared to movies or any other types of entertainment? And I say this because gaming has risen to the point where it's, bigger than music industry, bigger than the movie industry. And music is a huge part of the gaming industry. And since you've been involved in that for so long, and you are a gamer, obviously, I wanted to see what you think of the role of music within the games.
I think it's like you said, it's a big part of the game, of any game. I was playing Silent Hill the other day,
Oh,
and just
wow.
listening to that music,
Mhm.
it gets you. It's like a movie, where
Yeah.
where the music gets you into and gets you enthralled into the game. For me, it's a special part. I think if there were no music, and especially the way it is today compared to the way it used to be, if like Mario's theme
Theme
song,
song,
what was
yeah.
it? Dun, 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 dun. It's come a
Exactly.
long way since then,
Mhm.
to where you have the big sound, to where you have the big production. And it's not just the game with the big production, it's the music also with the big production. And I think it plays a very major part in the games that we play.
Definitely.
And I love it. I just love it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's getting bigger and bigger. And, what I feel is very interesting and very good, what's happening is that the bigger the gaming industry grows, the more independent music composers and artists have a chance to showcase themselves, because, the
right.
music industry and the movie industries are a bit closed and hard to get into, whereas the gaming industry, I can't say from experience, obviously, but I think it's, the barrier to entry is a bit lower if you're, a composer perhaps or a singer. And
Mm-hmm.
so many games are made with lower budgets or with indie teams, or maybe even with a team of one or
Right.
two people who employ such talented composers whom,
Mm-hmm.
would never be able to work on a high budget movie, let's say
Mm-hmm.
the beginning of their career. But here they are,
Right.
they compose this wonderful tune for this indie game, and then they become, very successful and famous because of that.
Exactly.
And
I have
I think that's
so
such a
many
big step forward.
offers.
Hmm.
Yeah, I have so many offers of people sending me their songs and like you said, it's small independent game makers. And they will ask me, well, I know we can't afford to pay you. I know, you probably won't do it. And when I listen to the songs and it's like, wow, and they're afraid to send them to me in demo form. Well, the first time I heard Snake Eater, it was in demo form, where you didn't have, all the whistles and bells, added to it. And I think I have I think it's two games coming up where they've asked me to sing for them. And
Really?
I told them, yeah, I'll do it,
Awesome. Can you share what games they are, or not yet?
No,
Okay.
no, not yet.
Okay.
And but I'll definitely let everybody know. I
Yeah.
have people who have also asked me about helping them develop games, and it's like I don't know anything about doing that. um,
That's awesome, actually.
but for me, everybody has to start somewhere, and like you said, even with independent films, even with independent artists and records and things like that, those people started somewhere, and they started probably in a small room in their bedroom or something, and then it turns into something huge. So to me, that's very important too. And from what I understand, the gaming industry right now is bigger than motion pictures. It's bigger than the record industry.
Yeah.
So that just goes to show you how it's grown so much over the years.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. And it's good to have the possibility, or give the possibility, as we said, for independent artists to open up and showcase themselves in such a way. So that's great.
Mhm.
That's really, really great. But what are your general thoughts about the let's say the growth of the industry and the way it's shaping today's culture, really? Because when I was a kid, you were not born and kind of introduced to video games directly. I was introduced to video games. I was about 5 years old, so somewhat a child, but at least I was already in school and whatnot. But now, children start playing video games as early as 3 or 4 years old, and the industry has just expanded so vastly, and it's really shaping today's culture. So, what are your thoughts on that in general? Do you see that kind of as a positive thing, or as a bit of a negative thing? Because there are negative connotations to that as well.
Right. I see it both ways. Right now, when I meet people and they tell me, "Oh, I started," like you said, you started playing Metal Gear when you were 10, and then I think to myself, "Wait a minute." It gets a little racy in there somewhere. Obviously, the parents didn't know,
No idea.
that you were playing that,
No idea, yeah.
while the mom was cooking in the kitchen. So that's just the one thing
Mhm.
with a lot of games right now. And I don't even, do they even still put the parental guidance on
Yeah,
the packaging
there's a yeah.
with the ages? Yeah.
Well, there's a PG system. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, for me, I don't think I would have let my son at 5 or even 10 play Metal Gear, anything else, that was, or anything that had, that was showing blood and
Yeah.
guts and gore and all
Yeah.
that stuff. I'm sure at that time he and his friends were sneaking playing those kinds of games.
Most likely.
Yeah, but then too, then the positive thing for me is that, and I'm just going to use Snake Eater as an example. it taught history also.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a very good point.
You know, with the cutscenes,
Yeah.
things that people didn't know that were true. Some of it wasn't true, but a lot of it wasn't. A lot of it was true from that era of when supposedly Snake is doing all his missions. So that's a positive thing.
Right.
But the other thing is, I think maybe we should go back to that parental guidance thing on some of them that are out there, you know. And most people that I meet nowadays, they say that they started young, and then they say, "Oh, now my kids are playing it because the kids know the song, and they sing it every time it comes on." And it's like, "Oh, okay." So, but that's the only thing. That's the only negative thing is
Right.
that, you know, just making sure that we aren't producing, you know, people who just walk up to other people and just, you know, do a CQC,
Yeah, of
you
course
know,
not.
on
Of
them,
course.
you know. Yeah, but that's the only thing. But
Mhm.
for me, for me, I even sometimes blush, you know, at certain things that I see in some of the games, you know, that I play. So I know that probably for kids, when they're playing it, they're just snickering because
Yeah.
they probably really don't really know what it is that they're looking at, you know. Yeah.
That's exactly right. I'm just remembering myself. To be honest with you, I didn't understand the story of Metal Gear Solid until I replayed it when I was maybe 18, 19 years old, you know? So it's such a complicated story, and we were just playing it to play it, to be honest.
As a young person, I can see you just playing the game and probably not even really paying attention to the cutscenes. You know, you're just eager to get to the next scene where you can actually play.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. I didn't really understand what was going on. Even to this day, the story of Metal Gear Solid is so complicated that I can't fully understand what's going on. I want to divert our attention a little bit to another subject, and you know, that's your performance recently live in Tokyo. I unfortunately did not have the pleasure of seeing you live, of seeing you perform live, but I did, however, you know, have the luxury of rewatching the recordings a few times, and you know, what a fantastic, you know, performance that was, and it was so great to see you on stage after, you know, such a long time.
What a thrill with darkness and silence through the night. What a thrill. I'm searching and I'll melt into you. What a fear in my heart, but you're so supreme. I give my life, not for honor, but for you. In my time, there'll be no one else.
And just to add a little bit of geekiness to our conversation, many viewers might understand this reference as Big Boss would say it, you're pretty good. And that's a big compliment coming
thank
from Big
you.
Boss. I had to say that as well.
Thank you.
But during your performance, you know, I couldn't help but notice your, you know, amazing outfit. And what's the story behind it, right? Who designed? It's so on point. It's so
Well,
great.
Well, okay. I sang 2 or 3 other songs from, I think 2 songs from 2 and 1 from 1. So the whole time, you know, I was in a gown. And I said, there's no freaking way that I'm going to sing Snake Eater in a gown. So
Yeah.
I was on my way to sleep and I was thinking, okay, well, I can wear one of the things that came in the box that I got from Tokyo the first time that they sent me the memorabilia from Metal Gear 3 was a t-shirt.
Oh, this is back when it came out.
This is back in 84.
Okay.
So it had
No,
Metal
in
Gear across it, you know.
2003 or 2004, I think. The
Yes,
game,
that's what
yeah,
I
yeah.
meant. I'm sorry. Yeah,
No worry.
2004. And so I had that T-shirt. I've worn it for years. Sometimes I sleep in it.
Oh, wow.
I clean the house in it. I'll wash the car in it. So it had gotten a little, just a little
Wear and
messed
tear.
up, you know,
Yeah.
wear and tear. From where
Oh,
I would
wow.
wash it, you know, it had a bleach hole that was like, well, you can't see it, but it was a
Really?
bleach hole
Oh my
that
God.
was there.
It was noticeable.
So, well, before I went to Tokyo, I said, well, at least I'll, you know, sew that up. But I knew that I definitely wanted to wear that for the performance.
Mhm.
And then I'm thinking, okay, I need some fatigues too. I had some fatigues and I said, no, this is just too plain. So there was a young lady here in Georgia, in Atlanta, Georgia, who I would see her sometimes on Instagram, and she was doing a lot of sewing and things like that. And so I hit her on DM and I asked her, I said, could you possibly do something for me? And she said, yeah. So I explained it to her. We met one day and we went to the craft store. And I said, I want to put the word snake on one leg
Yeah.
and eater on the other.
That's
But I
awesome.
want it to be blinged out.
Right.
So not just any regular letters. They've got to be blinged out.
Yeah.
And so we looked and looked and looked, and what she found, I said, no, that's too little. We've got to find something bigger so they can be seen from the stage. And I knew, with this being a concert hall, you know, that the lights would really pick up on it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was one of the first things that anybody
Yeah.
saw before they saw my face were
Yeah.
those pants, because the place just went up.
Right.
And there was a television screen behind me that I guess so the people in the balcony, you know, could actually see the
Yeah.
stage better. And there's a shot where one of the cameramen just had the pants. And it's like, really? Where's my face? So that's how that came about.
That's so awesome.
I still have them now. I wore them once last year to a convention. And then I had told the girls, anybody that wears a size 8, I'm going to put these on my website and you guys can auction for them.
Awesome.
So I think the next thing that I do, I'm just going to give them away, you know. Because one lady told me, she said, I'd pay like $500,000 for those pants. And it's like, what? I bought them at Target. And these little letters were from, you know, a craft store. So I think I'll just give them away. No,
Got
I
it.
take that back. I'm going to sell them.
For $500K.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, well, not for that much, but
I'm kidding.
yeah.
That's so cool. And also, I love the bandana and the tactical belt and the holster. I mean,
Well, that was all. That was all just trying to feel Snake, you know. And actually, the lady that did my hair and makeup for the concert, she says, well, of course, she had never seen the game. I don't even think she had ever seen a picture of Snake. And she says, well, what do you want me to do with your hair and all of that for, you know, when you sing Snake Eater? I said, he wore his hair in a ponytail. He had a bandana. And the shirt. Let's get back to the shirt. It was too clean when I took it to Tokyo. So I said, we've got to do something to get this to where it looks like I'm down on the ground. I'm going through the bushes. I'm killing snakes and rabbits and rats. And to get it dirty. So
that's incredible.
So I went outside of the hotel. Tokyo is so clean.
Right.
I couldn't find dirt anywhere
What a problem
to get
have.
that shirt dirty, you know? So we just said, well, we'll just do makeup. So she said, well, what do you want when I do your hair? We just put it in a ponytail. And I said, I also need to look like he looks, you know, when he has his his face mask when he changes over. And so I showed her a picture. So she did the makeup with the, so that we had all of that. You can't really see it too well on stage, but it was there. Yeah, it was there.
Wow, awesome! It's really a
So
fantastic outfit.
I had to be Snake. I had to get into that character, singing it live for the second time in my entire career. I had to be Snake.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was really wonderful. It's a great watch. I've rewatched the video a few times. It's so great, and the performance is different than the game, but it's the way you sing it is different, but it's so great, and it just adds such another layer of authenticity to the song, and just of how good the song is, and how good you are as well. So that was really awesome to know. Thank you. You obviously know that there are many fan covers, right, of Snake Eater out there.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah, the internet's full of it. I know that Donna Burke also performed an amazing cover, like a jazzy kind of style, which was really awesome as well. So I was wondering, have you had a chance to listen to any of them? And if any of them stood out to you, maybe we could shout one or two of them out for you. And I'll show you my favorite one later.
Okay. I have been able to, whenever I see any, some of them I click immediately off of because they're awful. I hate to say that. They're just awful.
Right.
And then there are others where I'll say, oh, and I listen to the whole thing. Reason being is that on the, I don't know if you know that MGS3 has a vinyl with the music.
I don't have it. I know it. Yeah.
Okay. There's also a remix that's on there.
Yeah.
That Norihiko did. First time I heard that, and it was like, oh wow. So whenever I hear
Camouflage remix.
Camouflage, exactly. So whenever when I hear other people doing remixes, now the covers, I've found some good covers, but the one thing that really gets me are the remixes, because they're very interesting. There's one, unfortunately, this young man passed away, I think about a month and a half ago.
Oh gosh.
Rob Cobain. And his is really nice. I like that one too. As a matter of fact, I just told someone last night, because for the Metal Gear Con 3 in August, I think it is July or August that I'm doing. Whenever anyone advertises that, they play some other girl singing Snake Eater, and I had to tell them, can you find me, please? And they say that I guess Instagram doesn't offer it or whatever in their music selections. So I tell them to play Rob Cobain's version, because I like it. It's fun. It's a little bit of a rap, but it's fun. And if you hear the whole thing, it's really, really, really nice. But there are some, especially the instrumentals, that I stop and I listen to. And I think to myself, maybe if someone will let me, I will sing live to that, if I could. So, yeah.
Well, you heard it here first, everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That'll be a really nice collaboration with you and some other, musician. That would
someone else, just as someone else's version of it, to be able to sing that. And people still know the words, they know the melody. So they know that it's still Snake Eater.
Yeah.
So
definitely. Yeah. I would like to share with you one of my favorite covers, if you don't mind.
Okay,
I have a feeling that perhaps you did not hear this one. And I did not hear this one for a long time as well. I think it's a relatively new video. So I wanted to share it with you and kind of listen to it together, if that's okay.
What a fear in my heart, but you're so supreme. I give my life, not for honor, but for you. In my time, there'll be no one else.
So what do you think about that? AI recreation of Freddie Mercury's voice singing your song.
Well, let me tell you, I love it. I love the way he sounds, but I'm scared for Delta coming out because Konami won't even tell me when the release is. They won't tell me if I'm still in it or not.
Oh,
And I'm
really?
hoping that we won't be getting an AR version
Oh,
of
my goodness.
me. So,
I hope not too. Well, I can tell you that it's coming out on the
yeah.
28th of August. It was revealed today or yesterday.
Well, I thought that was yesterday. I thought it was,
Yeah.
is it 28th or 25th?
I believe it's the 28th. Let me just double check here real quick. 28th of August, 2025. Yeah.
Well, you know, back in the fall, people were saying that it was coming out too.
Yeah, it might get delayed or
November
whatnot.
21st or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And saying that they knew it was the release date. So that's still too long for me.
I see.
That's way too far in the future. I'm ready to play it tomorrow.
Yeah, same, exactly.
I want to play it tomorrow.
But I really do hope that they use your voice. I mean, I don't see anyone else singing this song, to be honest with you. So
Well,
I truly hope it's going to be
hopefully
you.
they won't turn me into artificial intelligence. But I have seen David Hayter saying that he's gone back in the lab and he had to do some voiceover stuff for Delta. So at least we know David's still in it.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
the rest of the cast, the voiceover cast, are still in it. So I don't know. They haven't told me yet. I think they think I'm a blabbermouth. So, and I can't keep it to myself or something, but we shall see.
We shall see.
If
We shall see.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I'm obviously very happy to know that David Hayter is, reprising the role. I think, honestly, one of the most iconic voice actors in the video game industry. At least it was the first time when I was a kid that I was like, who is voicing this guy? And I had to check it out, and I read his name and I looked him up, and I understood that there's a profession like voice acting, and it's a whole big deal. And he's just great. And what's also fantastic about him is that he is so great with the fans. Like, he's been in this role for years and years and years, and I would have completely understood if by this time he was like, okay, guys, just relax. But
He and I met for the first time last summer. And he literally came up to me.
Wow.
And he said, "Oh my God, Cynthia." He said, "I thought that was you when you passed by me, but I wasn't sure. And then somebody told me that it was you." I knew who he was immediately when I first saw him.
Right.
But to get that from David, it was like, wow. I've been in awe of him all these years. And he came to me and said, "I thought it was you and I had to come over and meet you." That was the first time he and I had ever met. Yeah.
That's wonderful. He's really, I believe he's a wonderful individual, very talented also. He's not just a voice actor, obviously.
Right.
So, okay, yeah, hopefully you're in the game. Hopefully. We'll keep our fingers crossed for that.
Fingers crossed.
I'm interested about the time that you spoke about this once. I believe you had dinner with Hideo Kojima at one point. I'm the biggest Kojima fan, obviously, big Metal Gear Solid fan. He's, one of the greatest game designers out there today. So I believe that must have been a memorable experience for you. At least I think so. What was it like, meeting him, being with him, and, having dinner together?
Well, see, at that time, I really didn't know. I knew that he was responsible for MGS3. But I really didn't know that he was as big as he was at the time.
Right.
And it was interesting because he didn't speak English. I spoke no Japanese. And anytime that we spoke, at dinner, we had to speak through an interpreter. So it was a little different, but we still had a good time. I have a picture actually that he and some of the other developers of the game outside of the restaurant when we got through, and I cannot find it. They sent it to me in a Christmas card. that next year, and I've got to find it because that's one of the special moments, of this
Definitely.
whole thing is that we have that picture together.
Definitely, definitely. Well, that's great to know. I mean, I understand when you're saying that you didn't know that he was big when you met him then. So
Mhm.
for you, the
Mhm.
interaction was somewhat, just another day, right, at the job.
Mhm.
It's just, I'm a fanboy, and it's just me imagining myself in your shoes. For me, it
Mhm.
would have been such, a memorable moment in my life. Have you met him since?
No, I
No?
haven't.
Okay.
No,
Okay,
no.
because now
And I
he's even
definitely
bigger.
did. Yeah, he's even bigger now. And of course, when I went to Tokyo last year, that was Konami bringing me in.
Yeah, they had
And of
their,
course, we all know that he's not with Konami anymore, which is it's so sad,
yeah, it is. Whatever the case is, I don't know the
Yeah,
details,
and
obviously, but
we still don't know the details of that.
hmm.
But it was kind of sad to
Yeah,
be there and not have him to be there also,
yeah, I agree with you 100%. But I find solace in the fact that he managed to get back up and get back up very
Yes.
strong. Who's
Mhm.
right, who's wrong? I don't know. I don't care.
Mhm.
I, hope everything goes well for Konami, and I hope
Yeah.
everything goes well for Hideo Kojima as well. So
Yeah. Yeah, me
that's my
too.
my position
Yeah.
in here. Well, your performance obviously has meant so much for the fans over the years. Is there anything you would like to say directly to the fans while we're still, talking? Anything you want them to know?
What I want to say is I love you guys. Thank you for bringing me out of retirement, I think. Um thank you for still believing in me, and thank you for still loving me after all of these years, since 2004. Thank you for introducing me to your children, and hopefully your children will introduce me and the game to their children. I appreciate it. I love you guys to death, to the moon and back. And just keep on keeping on playing Snake Eater in your cars, when you're on your treadmills, when you're on your bikes. There's one guy who actually he plays it and it starts his car up. How he did that, I don't know. But thinking of you all doing things like that is what makes me excited. And I love you guys for loving me enough to have me in your life like that when you don't have to.
Thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. On behalf of the gaming community, on behalf of all the gamers, we love you very much. And we appreciate what you do and what you did. You're always in our hearts. The fact that you did this song and the fact that it's such a big part of history is resonating with all of us. And we are so happy that you're back. We're so happy that you're, so open. Personally, for me, I would like to express, my gratitude for your time, for you, for the opportunity to speak with you. It's a dream come true. I feel starstruck when I'm talking to you. And I, from the bottom of my heart, wish you nothing but the best to you, to your family.
Oh, thank you.
Hope to hear your voice in many other projects. You mentioned 2 that are coming out. Hopefully, you'll have a chance to let us all know when it's ready, what they are, and we'll jump right on to them. Just, wholeheartedly thank you for this interview. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure for me. And anytime you need me, I always tell people this. Anytime you need me, hit me up on Instagram, hit me up on Twitch, hit me up. Just you can DM me. I think my email address is on my website also. Just hit me up and I'm there.
Exactly. Well, that's how I got in contact with you through your website. So anybody who's listening,
okay.
that's the way to go. Thank you kindly. Thank you very, very much, Cynthia,
Thank
for your time.
you. Bye.